So, well, I think we have seen 5 experts speaking and 5 different views of what's happening in Chinese outbound tourism to Europe now. And I think there has been a lot of information and insights and experiences and good advice. So I hope that for you, everybody participating in our webinar has been enough things to learn and to think about, to give you some new ideas, maybe confirm things you're already doing. So this is the end of this part, but we're not finished yet, because now comes probably the most important part, answering your questions. So while we were doing the interviews, my colleagues indicated to me that there have been a lot of questions coming in, and they have already been so kind to sort them and look at those which have been asked by most of you and grouping them a bit together. So what I will do now is try to answer the most important ones, the most common ones, in the next 15 or 20 minutes. But of course, don't worry if we cannot do all the questions. So in the next few days, you get an answer by email, so no question will go unanswered. Well, the question and answer session, I think let's start with a poll, so you have something to do yourself. So please answer the question you can see on your screen, and let's see what is the opinion of the majority of our participants. Okay, thank you. I think already 2/3 of you have already voted, so thank you very much. We keep it open a bit longer so that you can put your vote there, but I can see the result is rather clear. I will tell you in a second. So I think, well, we can close the vote now, and we have a rather clear results. I hope you can see me by now. So we see 91% say yes. So 91% of you are saying yes in the next 12 months. I expect my business to go up. Well, that's why you're participating. And we have only 8% saying unsure and 1% saying no. So this is a rather clear result. Start by quickly going to this, which I think and so on. So, but the European part is sizable. It is always a bit complicated to say how many exactly come to Europe, because if you add up all the national statistics, we have more than 10% arrivals, but obviously a lot of Chinese people go to more than one European country during one trip. Also, some of you have asked, there were some numbers they were missing. What about Belgium? What about UK? We have been using those figures when we looked at the first half year of 2017, where we do have statistics available, and some countries are a bit slow with their statistics. So, of course, this is all about money. This is a business after all. So there has been the question, how much do they spend per day per person on average? And the short answer to this is hard to say. It's very, very different, and especially you have on the top some Chinese who spend really huge amounts of money, and then you have the majority who spend more than most other visitors. But of course, if you take the very high spending and the, let's say, upper normal amount of spending together, you come at very high averages. So, but let's say it depends, of course. In France, they will spend more money on shopping than in I don't know, Croatia, but certainly the average Chinese tourist spends more per person per day than the average European or American tourist, simply also because they have only less time to spend their money. They don't have 6 weeks holidays like we have in Germany. And payment also is, of course, connected to the question how we do the payment. And certainly in China, this is a very fast development. So we have been telling people in the past years, UnionPay credit card, that's what you have to accept. This is by now rather widely accepted in many shops in many countries. But in the meantime, things have been moving on, and now a lot of Chinese don't use credit credit cards anymore at all. They use WeChat Wallet or Alipay, so ways of payment where your smartphone can be used for the payment. And this is certainly something you have to follow. And there are a number of companies in Europe offering this service that you can accept Alipay or WeChat Wallet. And this is certainly a very good idea to make sure that the Chinese, if they want to buy something, that they actually have a way to spend the money. And this is also the question for the B2B level. So we had one question of a Chinese tour operator saying, my customers pay in renminbi, and it's very difficult to get the money out of China in euro. And indeed, probably some of you have this experience yourself. This is a problem. Mostly the solution is in using a in-between company in Hong Kong for this financial services, but this is still a problem we have to live with, and there is no official quick fix for this at the moment. Another question which has been asked by a number of participants is, how about internet access, especially for FITs? We have been told by several of the interview partners that for Chinese it's very important to be online all the time, to put up their photos on WeChat, to compare information, share information with their friends, get information about the places they're visiting all the time. So a lot of Chinese actually bring their own Wi-Fi, mobile Wi-Fi applications with them, so that they have a piece of hardware which makes sure that they have their own Wi-Fi always with them. But of course, in your hotel, in your attraction, in your coach, you should, if possible in any way, you should provide them with free Wi-Fi. That's really a very, very important point. So, and I think, well, two more questions, and then we do a second poll, so that you also have to do something. Don't worry. So one has been a question, so how about community-based tourism? How about volunteer tourism? How about sustainability? And certainly, this is not what you're connecting with your standard idea. Chinese are 45 people in a bus jumping out, taking a photo, jumping back in. But as we tried to say during this webinar, and I think the interview partners have been pointing out very clearly, that there is a growing number of Chinese who are interested to get closer to the community they're visiting, so that something like volunteer tourism or tourism which is connected to learning about ecology, how a local ecosystem is working, and that might be a coral reef, that might be a forest. The interest for this is growing, and you have special interest operators, Kayuan, one of them we talked to, where this interest is also finding a form and make them bookable. But though, for many of you, this is certainly a niche market to look into. And also the question, how about LGBT markets? Of course, in China, like in any other countries, you have also a gay and lesbian community. The point is, officially, you're not allowed to do any marketing where you openly say this tour is especially for gay and lesbian people. This is a no-no. There's no way to do that. So there are, of course, a lot of Chinese LGBT people traveling to places like Sydney, for instance, because they feel freer there to be seen in public, holding hands or whatever, which in China is still a problem. So this market is there, but you have to be very careful. You cannot promote this in any official way. So that maybe that's for the first set of the answers. And we have also answered while my colleagues have been sending out emails, so while we were doing the interviews, that for some questions we will answer them by email, because obviously we don't have time to answer all the questions right now, right here. So, but let's go to the second poll. And so it is open now, so please show us your ideas. So what do you think? How much is especially the SME, small medium-sized enterprises? How much especially destinations without a Eiffel Tower, smaller, not so famous destinations from the Chinese market, at least at the moment. How do they fare? And let's see what the answer. Okay, again, thank you very much. I see you're engaged. We have already, well, more than half of you voted by now already. So maybe we leave this, have this going on for another 10 seconds or so. Okay, good. So, and here the result is a little bit less optimistic, but still 87% of you said, yes, I agree. I think this is something where, especially with the new situation of the Chinese market, with a growing interest in exotic, special, authentic activities and attractions and destinations, there are more chances now for SMEs and for lesser known destinations. So 87% say yes, 12% say unsure, and again, only 1% say no. So that is obviously a verification of the fact that it's a good idea that we have the World Bridge Tourism Project, that we have the EU-China Tourism Year 2018 next year. So there is a lot to do. So I think we have a few minutes left, so let me just look at some of the other questions we had. So one question which we unfortunately cannot avoid talking about Europe and tourism is the question of terrorist attacks, which did not stop also in the last few months, unfortunately. And we are very sorry for everybody directly a victim of this, but of course it's also bad news for us as an industry. Chinese are very sensitive towards safety and security, and as many of them have a long list of places they still want to visit, it's very easy for them to say, okay, if this destination seems to be a bit unsecure now, well, let's put this down on the list. Let's go there in 2 years and go somewhere else for the moment. So there is obviously an impact, but as all our research has been shown in the last months, speaking to many experts, to many destinations, it is only rather short-living, fortunately, so that after 3 to 6 months, the effect is gone and the Chinese start to travel again. So the short memory of the customers is something which can make us optimistic that this is not a loss of the customers, it's rather that they come a bit later than they would have otherwise. And another question, very practical question, especially for tour operators, discussion which is always a hot topic is so the payment by Chinese tour operators, and we had one company saying we have been told by our Chinese partners we will be paid 50% upfront and 50% 1 month after the group has returned to China. Well, this is of course your own decision, but I would say from what I know, the majority of companies have the normal 80% in advance, 20% afterwards arrangement. And especially if you're not very familiar with your Chinese business partner, if you don't know the Chinese business partner very well, it is quite a risk you're taking if you accept anything else than at least 80-20. So I would stick to that. Maybe the last question we have time to answer here is, of course, the question, okay, what is the most attractive thing for Chinese travelers? Where do they go? How to get to them? I think the webinar altogether has shown that the biggest job you have to do, the biggest challenge is to tell the right story. The Chinese will go where they are told and they are convinced this is worthwhile going there. So your product adaptation, your storytelling, telling the right stories with the right channels, this will make the difference. So there's, of course, the Chinese, when they start traveling, they have to tick off the most important sites, the Eiffel Tower and the Colosseum and the Brandenburg Gate. But beyond that, it is very much what you are communicating, what you are telling them to bring them to your place. And this is true for all kinds of niche activities. And well, we had one question: what about the ultra high net worth individuals? So the millionaires, not only the millionaires. And the answer to this is the same. Well, they don't book a tour from a catalog, so you will have to show them what is there, what is very, very special and scarce and unique, and maybe connected to some investment opportunities if you want to attract these people. So there is a wide variety out there in the Chinese market. There's an interest for almost everything. It is your job, and hopefully this webinar and the other activities of the European Union in the EU-China tourism year next year, 2018, will help you to go to this direction more. There's a lot of different customers waiting for your offers, and there's certainly more business in the pipeline for everybody. Well, looking at the time, I think we have to finish here. As I said, the other questions we couldn't answer now here in the question and answer session. We sent an email to you. Also, don't forget, we have the handouts you can download right now if you want, with slides from the presentation I did at the beginning of the webinar. So please, if you want. And I know that some of the slides were full of numbers, not so easy to see in a short time. Download this in the handout section. And last point to make, don't forget, please, after you end your participation, there will be a survey popping up. There's only a few questions, takes only 1 or 2 minutes to answer. And as we want to make our webinars for you better and better, please be so kind to answer the survey so we know what we can do next time even better for you. With this, again, thanks to everybody who has been working in the background. Thanks to our interview partners. Thanks to the European Union. They gave the money to do all this work, and I hope that I will see many of you in one or other situation and fair and in China, hopefully. And all the best to you, and thank you very much for the participation in the webinar, and please don't forget the survey once you close this webinar. Thank you very much, and goodbye.